What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I thought we'd take a look at the evolution of the Countercade, the bar top, for lack of a better term, on an actual bar. Okay, everybody, so I thought it'd be appropriate to have a drink at the bar. No bourbon tonight. It is going to be eggnog. I mean, come on, it's festive. It's that time of year. So Merry Christmas, everybody out there watching this in the glorious month of December. And I thought I'd take some time, not just to talk about RK1Up's little countercades and how, Evercade is really moving that ball forward, but kind of where I've gone in the hobby, and especially the countercades, because I'm one of those guys that actually likes the countercade form factor. Not everybody likes the form factor. I understand. I get it. It's not really for everybody, but for me, it was a great little way to get into this hobby. And if you're going to mod something, the barrier of entry was pretty low, at least from a cost perspective. So let's start not here, but all the way at the very end of the table. This is the thing that I put together, the Marvel vs. Capcom 3 countercade that I built out of, I'm sure, a Pac-Man. I think, well, you know what? It was a Galaga. The sticker's still on the back here. A Galaga countercade. This is one of my wilder outings 3 years ago. It was actually 3.5. It was May of 21. That's when I got this thing done, and that was a ton of fun. It's running on a PlayStation TV. The little PS Vita TV set-top box is inside here, rocking a physical cartridge, Marvel vs. Capcom 3. I know there's a lot of different ways you can do this with Raspberry Pis and all that, but I wanted something that anybody could just buy the parts, put together, and make on their own without any kind of software, any kind of computer knowledge whatsoever. And that's what I came up with. And it was a lot of fun. But of course, the orientation of the screen is radically different. It took a lot to get that done. But for me, that was a really, really fun project and a vision for, I thought, where RK1Up could go with these little bitty countercades. Not too much time goes by, I think a year or two later, and we have the two-player countercades, which is kind of something that RK1Up did. They didn't just go halfway. They would jump 2 or 3 stages forward. So it wasn't just, hey, we got a lit marquee. No, it was more games. It was more modern games. It was a 2-player deck, the lit marquee. It all kind of happens at once. They're freaking out. We're excited. We're seeing a bunch of different changes. At the time, if you were into that form factor, it was absolutely a welcome change, something that I really liked. I've had these for years at this point, so obviously I like them. Some of you have been asking, where are they? Where have they been? They've actually kind of been hiding out as I begin to make room for this stuff. But these things, definitely apples of my eye. This is the best thing. Totally sucked, I think RK1Up did. As far as the countercades go, not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely the best. My favorite project, obviously, I did a bunch of different countercade projects, but the Marvel vs. Capcom 3 is definitely my favorite. Here's where I think things start to kind of taper off and start going downhill pretty quick. RK1Up doesn't really know what they're doing with the bar tops, with the arcade, or with the countercades, with the arcades in general. They take one step forward, in my opinion, and they change the sides of the next iteration. They go back to the one-player style, which I think, I'm not going to call that a plus or a minus. I'm just going to call that a kind of a lateral move. At the end of the day, it probably made more sense to have the one-player version, but you can't deny the two-player option is a different option. It gives you more options. It gives you more variety. So I think it was a lateral move. I think it was a smart move. Overall, I think I like that better. The form factor is better with a single-player experience. They changed the size of the cab, but then we began losing features like headphone jacks and the USB port that existed on the 2-player version as a 2-player option for controls. Never really understood that. They should have carried that over to this generation, had the USB on the front. That was your second player option if you wanted it. Doesn't exist here. Headphone jack doesn't exist here. But the biggest omission is the lit marquee, a big step back forward, where we have that on this generation. Something I had to have Angel over at This Ability make for me for my project. RK1Up had, they took away in this iteration. Kind of sad, really. But we did get Mortal Kombat, which was good. Now, we did have the 2-player version of Mortal Kombat before, but I liked this version better, minus the options, minus the things that I just mentioned. So that was definitely a step down. And then they've kind of completely halted production. This is where Evercade comes in and picks up the ball and absolutely runs with it. And they just really improved on this iteration in every single way, bringing back some of the things we liked about this generation and adding their own flair, specifically their cartridge ports. That's just like the biggest thing. It's the best way to add games. But the included games in this are no slouch. Whether you get this version or the Mega Man version, you can't deny that the offerings of the games are really just AAA titles. Especially for arcade games back in the day. This version is more expensive than the regular version because this is the deluxe version, but I think even the standard version is just a little bit more expensive than this. The standard version of this is more akin to this. They were about the same price when they came out. So this is an outlier because it's the deluxe. It has the sand wall controls, which is more expensive than this or this, but it's nice to at least have that option. Arcade 1-Up at this point had already made a 3/4 scale Marvel Superheroes cabinet with the sand wall controls. That option already existed. Why they never did it in the Countercade, a segment that they created, I have absolutely no idea. I've done a review on this. Go check that out on the channel. These 4 Countercades are going to live on. We're going to do some modification of this to kind of bring this back up to where it should be. But no, I'm not getting rid of my Countercades. I like my little Countercades. They have a special place in my heart, and they're going to have a special place in the arcade. And I do want the Countercade represented again in the arcade. It was in the old arcade. It needs to come back to the new arcade. So for right now, they're going to sit on the actual bar, but they'll eventually have a counter inside the arcade. So let me know what you think about this in the comments section. Do you like the Countercades? Do you miss the Countercades? Do you wish they would have continued on? Would you like to see more mods in this area? I mean, I've done some cool stuff in the past. Is this something I should revisit? I'm open to any suggestions, but I got to tell you, no matter what anybody says, I always kind of like the Countercades. It's a second place. It's a runner-up to the 3/4 scale cabs from back in the day. Anyway, thank you so much for stopping by and checking out the channel. Have a drink on me, and I'll see all you next time.